Yeah, so thanks, Marty, for having us again.
Yep.
Sorry we missed the New York in person. Um, Great to be with you all today. Thanks to R&L for hosting us, or K&L, I'm sorry. I'm Milton Cohen. I'm the CEO at Caring Closures, or CCI for short.
Can you move closer to the center here? It says, yeah, there you are. You're in the center of the picture. Excellent.
Better?
Yep.
Okay, super. So CEO at Caring Closures, or CCI for short. A couple housekeeping things. I'll be here all day today. I won't be here tomorrow. We'll be at the dinner tonight. So if you have an interest in learning more after hearing me talk today, I'd love to spend some time with you. Actually, show you some samples of our SafeRx product line. Where do we go?
Sorry.
Okay. SafeRx product line, which will be in the top right corner of your screen when it comes back up. It's a locking prescription vial. Here at CCI, we are modernizing one of the most successful public health interventions in public health history, global intervention, to really solve the epidemics of today. And you guys have all heard of the opioid epidemic. What you may not have heard is that sneaking pills a few at a time, or pilfering as we call it, is a leading source of diversion in multiple household and institutional settings, and also has been the #1 source for teen drug abuse in our country, literally since 2012, for over a decade. Our kids can get an OxyContin 10 or a Xanax bar in the locker room at school easier than any of us in this room can get that medication from a doctor. We also have a resurgent pediatric poisoning epidemic, where every 8 minutes a child goes to the ER from a drug or supplement poisoning, down from 9 minutes in 2020, and where every 12 seconds a child is poisoned from a common household product. These cost our healthcare system billions of dollars annually, our economy tens of billions of dollars annually, and literally all of them can be contained with simple access control. And the good news is we've seen this movie before. We proved access control as an intervention over 50 years ago, and here's the story. Many of you in the room weren't around, but in the late 60s, we had a massive child overdose epidemic of kids overdosing on baby aspirin. What had happened is aspirin's bitter to the taste, so kids wouldn't take it. The mothers complained, and so the manufacturers flavored it like candy. And as soon as they flavored it like candy, kids started eating it like candy, and you can overdose on aspirin. Massive epidemic here in the United States. We intervened with the child-resistant cap and closure in access control, one of the most successful interventions in public health history, generating a 45% reduction in US child mortality from drug and supplement poisonings. 45%, such an effective intervention that the entire world adopted it, the entire world over. But fast forward 50 years later, all the world has long forgotten the lesson in access control. And today, literally just sees everyday packaging. It's hiding in plain sight right underneath our noses. But here at CCI, we see an opportunity to modernize this technology for today's epidemics. We've created a platform technology with global IP coverage on the entire update to the cap and closure mechanism that was used to solve for both pediatric poisonings across multiple product categories, as well as diversion of controlled substances. And so we've applied this platform technology first to prescription drugs with our SafeRx line of locking prescription vials, pictured here on your screen, in our teen-proof version there on the left, that's used by pharmacies in dispensing controlled substances behind the counter, cuts off that pilfering or sneaking pills as a source of diversion. You can also see a real-life version sitting over there on the desk. I can show it to you later if you have an interest in learning more. And then also in our pediatric fatality risk version on the right, coming soon to a pharmacy near you. That's designed for pediatric fatality risk meds. And so we've got this patented. SafeRx is our first product line. We'll roll it out into consumer product packaging later. But SafeRx on its own is an incredibly big opportunity for us. $700 million in revenue opportunity in the controlled substance market here in the US alone. About another $1.3 billion in pediatric fatality risk medications, for a total of about a $2 billion revenue opportunity here in the US and $5 billion globally. Now, you may look at that and see, 2/5 That's just the US. Well, we're 5% of the world's population. Keep in mind, we consume 80% of the world's controlled substances, hence the mismatch to population globally, right? But we have reimbursement coming in both of these categories over the next couple of years. And we can get to these numbers here with prescription vials alone with our technology, just with the SafeRx line. But why us? You can look at the standard normal success factors for an investment. I would argue that grit and perseverance are the most important because there is an incredible amount of adversity along the way in any endeavor like this. Our grit and perseverance is backed by an incredibly strong why. I know many of you have probably seen that TED Talk. We have an incredible why. I have a personal story in my extended family around the opioid epidemic. Every single one of our employees at the company has mission conviction around a personal story, whether it's in their family, a neighbor, a friend of the family, et cetera. And so no one here in the United States is probably more than 1 or 2 degrees removed from a story in the opioid epidemic. And that is the core of our why and our grit and perseverance. We also have a significant competitive advantage versus anything else on the market, about a 10x manufacturing cost advantage, a 6x workflow cost advantage behind the counter and filling prescriptions with the SafeRx line. We're, as a matter of fact, the only product in the market that was designed exclusively for the point of dispensing, filling prescriptions. But don't take our word for it. Here are some of the awards that we've won along the way, some of the media recognition that we've had. Our media recognition is moving from consumer into healthcare. You can see Pharmacy Times, Becker's up there, and some key awards. But the market has also spoken. Since we launched into healthcare in late 2021, fourth quarter of 2021, we've had 50% plus quarter-on-quarter new customer growth. We tripled healthcare revenue last year. We're on pace to more than quadruple it this year. With over 80% of our budget for the year already in year-to-date sales or in quoted pipeline, that last stage before we get the PO. Here's a visual representation of that growth, just so that for the visual people in the audience that want to see a good hockey stick. And so this is all historical here. This is all, it's important to keep in mind pre-reimbursement growth in clinical pharmacy for the most part, right? Pre-reimbursement. And we expect this growth to accelerate substantially with reimbursement, which is a completely new model. So the economics are compelling enough that the stakeholders, the payers, split about a 390% return on implementation for opioids alone amongst the payers, PBMs, plan sponsors, and even some of the stop loss guys will get some risk out of there. If you're familiar with the healthcare system. Does everybody know what I mean by a payer? Anybody? Everybody? Yeah, okay, super. They pay, at the rates being tested in all of our clinical trials and what we're about to go live with in medication-assisted treatment drugs, the pharmacies make about 53% fill margin. So just as a real-life example, CVS, market share leader here in the US in chain drug, about another $600 million in revenue for them from reimbursement, about $360 million of which falls directly to their bottom line. So do the math on that 10x multiple. You've got $3 billion in value creation potential for them as a customer of ours. And so we're going to have significant alignment among all these different stakeholders in the value chain and pharmacy delivery. The good news is that reimbursement will be starting this year. For medication-assisted treatment drugs, or MAT. These are drugs that are used in recovery treatment, drugs like methadone, Suboxone, buprenorphine, et al. And that's as a result of a trial that just completed very early this year in the state of Ohio. And then right behind that, we have 4 additional trials pending, testing for controlled substance dispensing and the health economics there, right? So we're getting medication-assisted treatment drugs this year. The first domino will fall sometime late July. And then the dominoes as they fall for medication-assisted treatment drugs, and as our trial data comes in from controlled substance studies, we'll start to see coverage for controlled substances, probably starting around end of first half next year, be my hope. So you can see the trials here. I just want to highlight a couple of things. We expect the SUNY trial to deliver data end of this year. That's the State University of New York. You're smiling, maybe you're from up there. Okay. And then separately, we've got CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, studying it through a QIO, a quality improvement organization contractor that they use in the Western states. That'll come next year. And then the Bloomberg School at Hopkins, #1 public health school in the country, is running 2 studies, one for the state of Ohio. Ohio engaged them to run it. And then separately with CDC funding running a study in what's called the Indian Health Service, which is all of the Native American tribal lands that we have across the country to whom we provide healthcare through the IHS. And so all those trials, there are marquee names in there, and these are the great testing environments. I would expect pretty soon we'll have one in the military, either active service or Veterans Administration, because those are the populations that have more issues with these types of public health crises than the general population. We expect to own the market as we create it. So what I've done here for a competitive landscape is super simple. I've taken all of our consumer product line competitors. I'm going to say that again, consumer product line competitors. These are folks that compete with us on Amazon or off the shelf at major retail, right? We've stacked ranked them versus us. The next closest competitive product is that Safer Lock product in row 2. Costs them about $5.50 to manufacture and assemble a single unit before they deliver it to the customer through the value chain at all, right? Supply chain at all. As a comparison, it costs us at scale about 45 cents on average between our sizes to make a unit. Fully assembled, landed cost US, right? Fast forward in a reimbursement rate environment. Rates being tested are about $4.50 a fill. For a pharmacy to use that next closest competitive product, they'd have to pay somewhere between $8 and $10. Just use an 8 round number. They're going to lose $3.50 a fill. Or they can use our product, and at that $4.50 reimbursement rate, make about 53% margin, about $2.40 a fill. So we expect to own the market just by virtue of the economics in reimbursement. Fast forward, so my background is I grew up in the finance profession and private equity doing buyouts, investing for a family on the East Coast. Very early in my career, Chase Capital, the buyouts group at the Chase Manhattan Bank. I'm dating myself there. And I've had a number of exits. Most recently, I was investing in healthcare services and business services. I've done 2 companies as an operator with successful exits. For this business, I've recruited Rob Falkenberg to the board. He's been with me about 2 years now. He's the former CEO of United Healthcare California, 35 plus years in managed care, brings the payer perspective squarely into the boardroom and can open up any real door in payer land and healthcare for us here in the US. Chris Demos is a pharmacy industry marquee name. He ran Super Value Pharmacy for a while, ran a business unit for McKesson, ran strategy for McKesson. Ultimately was recruited out of his second retirement by Advent International, a big alternatives manager that many of you are probably familiar with from their buyouts, their private equity group, to help run a big home healthcare roll up in the Midwest here in the US. There's not a door in US pharmacy that Chris can't open for us. You can tell just from the faces beneath that we've got a very lean team. We've managed to do an incredible amount with a lean team. So key philosophy is you get up to 120, 150% utilization on your employees before you hire the nth plus one. I've continued to follow that in this company as in others. Fast forward, there's a big slide with a lot of numbers on it. Let's not get intimidated. There are 2 cases. The top is a management case. The bottom is our accelerated coverage case. What we've done is for each set of projections, we've indicated the timing of key inflection points, both in terms of market access, i.e. payer coverage, and also in terms of pharmacy sector adoption. And so as you can see, it's all a timing effect in the difference between the 2 cases, between most of those key inflection points. And they're on average anywhere from 6 months to 12 months ahead in the accelerated payer coverage case versus our management case. But regardless, by 2028, we can get to somewhere between these 2 cases, between a little under 100 million in revenue and a little under 250 million in revenue. So super aggressive, but the economics and reimbursement are so compelling for all the stakeholders that we expect pretty rapid adoption. The one thing I would say is, you can look at this projection horizon and it's very, at first glance, it's very difficult to scale this. but everything scales very, very quickly in our business. The wholesalers, McKesson and Cardinal, whom we already sell through, handle fulfillment, distribution. Fast forward on the manufacturing side, it's a contract manufacturing network that we're building. We've got 4 pre-qualified contract manufacturers on 3 different continents. And so we're poised and ready to really scale effectively in reaction to this type of growth in the market. Yes.
Question. Is that your product? Is it the only size of your product, or are they kind of different sizes?
I have different sizes. That's a 60 dram that you see there. So that's our largest size. Inside it, there's an 18 dram that's got a more narrow neck circumference. And yeah, so we suit them to the pharmacy sector's fill mix, if you will, based on the size of pills and size of fills.
Own that and turn it to the pharmacy for the kind of recycle, or what, single use?
Every time. And now it's recyclable materials, but you can't, a pharmacist can't dispense in a container that he doesn't know to be uncontaminated. So if you brought it back, they'd worry about whatever you had in it before impairing that medication efficacy. And so you can't do that. They won't do it at the pharmacy. Does that answer your question? Any others while we pause here? Yes, sir.
Is there any ESG at all in terms of whatever you're doing?
We're focused on the factors, but we haven't developed a formal plan yet. We'll do that when we probably transition to a B company, which is something else that we're thinking about and talking about internally.
Why an ESG? What's the ESG part of this? Social?
Well, environmentally, from the recyclability, sustainability. Yeah. So, I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but it's something that we are definitively thinking. Right. Yeah, in the back.
What happens if you forget your password and can't access medication?
Yeah, well, let me tell you how it works. So first off, rescue medications don't ever go in one of these, right? A rescue med, you know what I mean by that. Second, the way it works is you drop off your script at the pharmacy, or the physician shoots the script over in an e-script, right? In either case, the pharmacist or the prescriber is asking you what you want your PIN number to be. So you're picking the PIN number. They store that PIN in the system at the pharmacy in the patient notes field. Then every time they have a fill they're encoding that's in their vial program, they encode that cap with your specific PIN number. So the rates of people forgetting are particularly low. As a matter of fact, we don't even really hear about it. You know, in the case of a forgotten PIN, we leave it up to the pharmacy customer to decide how to deal with that. So some of our customers authenticate over the phone using date of birth, social, driver's license number, whatever. Some of them require an in-person visit, and it just depends on the nature of the pharmacy and the nature of that community, right? Other questions? Yes, sir.
What about your data collection on what you're going to do down the line? You know, when you get down to like a year and a half or 2 years, just looking at the data.
So the data will inform product development, and ultimately what I expect to do is a little bit off the fairway in terms of what I would have shared with you guys today. But ultimately, I expect to take over the vial industry in its entirety. And I'll tell you why. Because the pharmacy dispensing mix is about 12% controlled. It's about another, call it 60% pediatric fatality risk medications. And the remainder, if your toddler gets into it, they might get a tummy ache, right? But they're not going to die before you get them to the hospital. And so ultimately, if you rewind the tape, you remember the 4-ring version, which you see there, and then the 2-ring for pediatric fatality risks. Ultimately, those will be reimbursed. Pharmacies will be making money on them. And so I'm going to kit my vials 12% 4-ring for controlled, 60% 2-ring for pediatric fatality risk, and the remainder child resistant. And every pharmacy is going to want to buy that box because it perfectly matches their dispensing mix. And they're also making money on 72% of the units in that box. Does that make sense? So I'll hopefully be buying child resistant capacity 4 years from now for pennies on the replacement cost.
5 more minutes.
Super. So exit SafeRx. We expect to exit the vial business sometime around the 28 period. If you just use a 10x multiple, we're over 600 million. We believe if we can pro forma in for the right buyer, some of the chain drug implementation that hasn't taken place yet, and get paid on some portion of that, we can get to a 10-digit exit for the business. We would sell this business with an exclusive license to use the IP solely in prescription vials, very narrowly defined, while retaining the IP for continued monetization via licensing into other packaging categories that have high rates of pediatric poisoning. So at that point, we're really just playing with house money, right? Because all the investors are investing at the care enclosures level. SafeRx is just to sell off a piece and distribute. What we're doing for financing is we're finishing off a bridge round. That's a convertible note or safe structure. You can see the terms there. We have about $1 million left in the bridge. We'll probably end up doing 2 over, would be my guess. Probably by July 31, August 15 timeframe is we'll wrap that up. We are looking for a mission-aligned family in either addiction, the opioid epidemic, or pediatric causes to join us as a long-term financial partner. We put 10 million out there, but we do have groups that are whose minimum check size is 20 or more. And so we may do some type of kind of cleanup round with an investor of that size, with some selling stockholders from early on, et cetera, and also an M&A budget. But that's where we are. So I'm here, if you know of someone that has an interest in this particular domain and helping solve these problems, we'd love to hear from you. I'm just going to cover really one more thing.
Money on the 10 million?
We haven't talked about that yet, but our post-money cap in the current note is 25, if that's helpful.
But you get on the current, oh, you're in pretty good shape for the.
Yeah, the current note is a pretty reasonably good deal. So one more thing before I open it up for additional questions. Going back to that child being poisoned every 12 seconds here in the U.S. From a common household product. Our cap and closure technology is a platform technology. It's not just prescription vials, it's carrying closures, right? These are closures that care about you and your family. There are about 10 billion units out of 14 billion total that we believe we can license onto globally at our mature market share. It's for every dime in average royalty rate, it's about $1 billion in revenue. Very high rate of distributable cash flow. There's very little CapEx against the licensing business. There's very little working capital against the licensing business. So we expect to create a distributions machine. Our ideal financial partner in the long term has unused passive losses elsewhere in their portfolio that they can use to offset our distributions for tax. So we're really looking for mission alignment and potentially tax alignment to really have an incredibly accretive partnership. There's a representative product category down there, detergent pods. You have all read about these. Every 36 minutes, a child 5 or younger here in the US goes to the ER from a detergent pod poisoning. It's permanent impairment of the esophagus. It's bloody awful. We have a lot of product categories where we can do a heck of a better job. This is going to be the most visible public health intervention of the last 50 years. I will tell you that 10 years from now, though, I would expect our cap and closure technology to be as ubiquitous as child-resistant caps and closures are today, as ubiquitous as they are. And if we're successful doing that, we'll have saved literally tens of millions of our children and teenagers, which is why I got involved while all our people and all our investors are involved, and we'd love to have you join us. So thank you very much, and I hope I can answer the rest of your questions.
I have another question on intellectual
Sure.
property.
Yeah. We have 11 issued patents, 2 pending. Of the 2 pending, 1 should issue literally any day now. It's already been allowed. We just haven't had the issuance yet from PTO. The patents are international, so they cover globally. We did all the PCT countries. If you're familiar with IP, you'll know what I mean by that. It's a patent cooperation treaty, so you get most of your major markets there. And we have actually, I think there's something in here. Yeah, so this whole strategy wheel that you see on the left is our strategy for continuing to expand and deepen the moat. IP is this whole very strategic asset for us, so we invest very intentionally in it. And so that's hopefully answers the question on IP.
Yeah. Questions?
Yes, sir.
So you had a slide up there with the potential buyers.
We have not had any discussions. We were approached in 2017. I'm just trying to go back to the slide by the 80% category share leader in the medication management category in retail, which is pill organizers, pill fobs, those 7-day organizers it's probably most familiar with. We were approached back then. We didn't get into it. We discussed a licensing deal. Fast forward, we didn't get to terms. 18 months later, they launched a competitive product into the marketplace in the consumer product category. that goes on their power panel, which is a set that a retailer uses for the category. It's just the 20 products you'd want on it. Fast forward a year and a half later in Southeast Grocers, this is a fun story. In Southeast Grocers, which is Winn-Dixie, Bilo, Harvey's Emas, and Fresco Emas and Harvey's, actually. So 4 different banners. They replaced 2 of the SKUs on that competitor's power panel, like that comes with 20, with our 2 sizes in our retail version. So we took a piece of their power panel. It was really fun. Anyway, maybe that answers your question. Yeah.